And here we are. We are back. So, and now we're talking a little bit about, I mean, we kind of came out of the smart home environment already with some vacuums, robot vacuums, and automated cooking. We're still staying in the apartment house or whatever, right? But we're more moving towards the living room a little bit. If
not just the living room.
That's accurate.
It could be anywhere in the home, actually. But,
it could be.
But we're still locked within the confines of our home at this point. That's what.
And I guess that just made perfect sense what you were talking about. It could be anywhere right now, and it can be wireless. So I'm talking to Pablo La Rosa. He's the general manager for marketing for Teufel. And Raumfeld?
Yes, for Raumfeld specifically, which is part of Teufel. Yes,
okay.
But I'm general manager marketing for Raumfeld. So happy to be here today and talk about what we're announcing here at the IFA show, and maybe a little bit more about the brand and our product line. But you set it up very, very well there. That's your job, right? So yes, we are making wireless streaming speakers since a long time, actually. The company was founded in 2008 here in Berlin. Yeah. So it was born out of the passion of two really techie sound guys that really, really appreciated good sound. They had at the time, a lot of high-res files on their laptops, and they wanted to find a way to play this music in their house wirelessly. There was no solution on the market, so they created this technology, and this was before you had Spotify and SoundCloud and all of these things. They already had the vision that I want to be able to stream music. So they created this technology, wonderful technology, and Teufel got wind of it, and in 2010 acquired Raumfeld, and has since been marrying a bit the history of Teufel speakers with this wireless technology that Raumfeld brought to the table, and packaged it into a really beautiful design. And I think if you were to ask me, and feel free, what's the difference between Raumfeld and everyone else?
Pablo, I would like to ask you a question. I've been really thinking about this for quite a while. Yeah. When we look at these other competitors on the market, what's the difference between Raumfeld and
I'm so glad you asked. The main difference, actually, it really gets down to design, the word that I just used. So if you go on our website, raumfeld.com or raumfeld.de, and you check out the products, you will notice they really make a statement in the home. So this is not the kind of speaker that you buy and that you kind of hide, that maybe your wife doesn't want to look at. This is very female-friendly as well. It's for anyone who appreciates really good design. So it's very inspired by Bauhaus, I would say. So it's going to fit into any kind of apartment, whether you have very contemporary tastes, or even if you have more retro tastes, it will match. Comes in black or white, of course, so you can take your pick. But and also the other good thing is the sound. Obviously, we are sound fanatics at Raumfeld. You can play high-res files through the Raumfeld system up to 192 kilohertz. We support all the file formats: FLAC, WAV, MP3, and streaming services, obviously. So speaking of that leads me to our first announcement here at the IFA, which is that we are finally showing Google Cast working on our Raumfeld systems. So this is something that's been in the making for quite some time, and our customers have been really asking for it because, prior to this, Raumfeld was sort of a closed system in terms of the streaming providers. So the streaming providers, needed to work with our app. So you would go into the Raumfeld app, and then you could play SoundCloud or Tidal or TuneIn and things like this. But the first that changed that was Spotify. We had Spotify Connect, so that way you could just actually open Spotify and start streaming on your Raumfeld system, which was great. Now we take it even a step further with Google Cast, and thanks to this really great technology, you can literally just go to over 200 different apps that are already supporting Google Cast, open it up, tell it which Raumfeld speaker you want to play it on, and in seconds you're streaming. So it actually, we did a multi-room implementation, which is something that not everyone is doing at this point. There are other people obviously doing Google Cast, but most are not doing multi-room. So when we talked about in the home earlier, sure, you could have speakers in the living room, but you might also want to have one in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in your bedroom. And this is really great because, you can now stream music through Google Cast in multiple rooms at the same time. Very easy. You go into Google Cast and just tell it which speakers you want. And in the Raumfeld system, if you're using stuff that's within our app, you can even go so far as to stream different sources in different rooms, of course, which is great. All of our speakers, except for our smallest, offer line inputs as well. well. So if you have already, a turntable or you have some other audio equipment, you can instantly play that through the system. On the host system, 0 latency. If you start streaming it to other places in the house, then of course there's a little bit of buffer time, but it's really great. It works like a charm. So there are now over 200 channels supported in the Raumfeld system thanks to Google Cast. So we bring Deezer on board now. We're bringing, Qobuz and Plex, and there's a great new classical streaming provider called Adagio that's really, really great. Big fan of theirs. So that's news number one.
So when you look at the market and how it developed, especially Teufel as one of these classic speaker makers and manufacturers, being in a very, very high end, which is also a very competitive market when we look at these brands over there and the pricings on some products.
Yes.
For those audio fanatics. What was going through your mind when Google announced the Chromecast, this little dongle that you can now add where you can make each and every speaker connected with? Wasn't it like I said, oh my God, now they killed our business?
No, I don't think that's Google's intention. I think rather the way I see it is it's an opportunity because it actually makes, in a certain sense, companies like ours and our competitors' lives a little bit easier because, all we need to do is basically make sure that we're compatible with Google Cast and their spec, and so long as all of the providers are also required to do the same, then everything's going to work very well together. So at the end of the day, what you're giving the customer is more freedom and more choice, and I think that's always a good thing, right? So, yeah. Having a very locked and closed system, I think, is definitely not what people want. They know the apps that they're comfortable with, and they want to go in there, and they don't want to be forced to use another app. Why should we try to, duplicate features that are already available? Maybe social sharing features that are in an app. That just forget it. Let's let the people use what they like in the way that they like, and let's be compatible. And I think that's the direction it's going in generally, and that's the direction that we want to go in. While making sure that we're able to provide the level of quality that we require for our customers. So
even though that we are talking about a kind of output system that is connected to a very, very digitalized world, how important is it to go for high end with your speaker systems for premium devices? Right?
Yeah.
I can buy a goddamn $40 Bluetooth device, and I think, oh my God, I'm there, right? I have my music.
I'm actually glad you asked that question because I think this is something, in my time at this company so far, I've been really thinking about this idea of how people listen to music these days, and I think on the one hand, technology is great, but on the other hand, sometimes it kind of gets in our way a little bit, right? Think about when you go to a concert these days, what are most people doing at a concert?
You're filming it with their smartphone.
Very good. You're right.
Super annoying.
You are right. Exactly. Are they really listening to the concert at that point, or are they more focused on what they're doing with their phone, right?
They're watching the concert through their smartphone.
Yeah.
But they're terrible.
They're not actively listening to the music, right?
I'm getting it when you're doing it for 20 seconds. Why don't you want to have a shot? Right,
sure.
There you go. But I was just, I was just on a concert last Saturday of one of my most beloved bands, New Model Army, finally seeing them live again, and he also made an announcement. It's kind of weird when I look at all of you guys.
He said something about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
You're watching me through a camera lens, right? It's like me being on TV.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's the same thing, even in the home, we're distracted by a million things, by our technology. We sit, I don't know about you, but I'm guilty of this too. I come home and I'm watching, maybe a movie, and at the same time I've got my iPad and I might be right. I might be like checking something on Amazon right then, or maybe then I get a text and I'm like, or maybe you're doing the same while listening to music. You might also be fumbling around with your computer, and you're not really listening anymore at that point, right? And I think this is something that we've gotten out of the habit. I remember when I was a kid, when you got a new album, it was records back then. You would sit down in front of your stereo and you would listen to it
with a cover in your hand.
Yeah, side A, flip it over, side B. You paid attention, right?
Yeah.
So people have made a lot of compromises, and what you just said, like the $40 Bluetooth speaker or Euro Bluetooth speaker, that's another example of compromise, right? You're listening in mono half the time. I don't know if people realize that, but when you buy these tiny little all-in-one systems, you are listening to music in mono. Would you watch TV in black and white?
No.
Of course not. So why would you listen to music in mono? But people do it, and that's kind of what we're trying to change at Raumfeld. We want people to get back to the idea of really listening to music properly, and we believe that if you take the time yourself, you have to make time for it, you have to focus on it, but through our speakers, through this, which are mostly stereo systems, like true stereo systems, even the single speakers that we make can be paired for stereo if you like, so we're really focused on stereo and high quality, as I said, and then of course with the beautiful design that they have, you will want to sit on your couch and put your speakers there and sit down and listen, and if you take the time to do that on a system like this, we believe it will immensely change your relationship with the music that you're listening to. And that's what it's all about, right?
I can fully agree to this. You know what? The last time this really appeared to me was, I think, back in March or April when I was at the Dolby offices in San Francisco. And they were doing a demo on the Atmos. And I was talking to a couple of sound engineers. What each and every sound is now an object that can be placed in a three-dimensional room, right?
Yeah.
And what they can do with it, right?
Yeah.
And I was just blown away. I said, "Oh wow, that is just so cool and so immersive right now for you." And for the very first time in quite a while, besides the fact when I'm going to concerts, I've been really taking my time, been really listening to it. While for the rest of my day, music became such an, just ubiquitous media tsunami background shower thingy sound.
It's something that you just have in the background that while you're doing other things.
It changed a little bit when I'm listening to podcasts. So when I'm going to the office, I get on the subway, and I'm stopping like 3 stops before, and then I'm walking the rest so I can listen to that podcast again. Right? But it's the same with music. When I listen to great albums, or when I'm into a great new album, I love to take my time, and then I really need to put on a headset.
And we
sorry to say that. I'm putting on a headset right now
because it makes you focus a little bit more, maybe.
Exactly. But you guys are absolutely right. You need to bring something to the consumer where they have the chance to focus again.
And I think if you make an investment in a good speaker system like that, you will naturally want to focus on it. Sort of like, if you take out an abonnement with a personal trainer, you're going to work out because you spent the money on it and you're committed now, So if you really take music seriously, then it makes sense to look into a Raumfeld system because there's no compromises, and you will naturally to have a change in your relationship with the music through what we provide, I believe. So it's funny you mentioned the Atmos thing because if you happen to live in Berlin, I don't know, you can come by the Teufel Raumfeld store because we have a wonderful cinema set up there with an Atmos. And there's a great demo they can put on for you, and you will be amazed at how immersed you are in the sound. It's crazy.
Seriously, that was the coolest thing ever. We actually even have a phone with us that can do Atmos.
Oh wow! Okay.
And it's just amazing. I've been actually showing it to a couple of competitors of this brand over the last 3 days, and they were like,
"Wow,
what's going on here?
Where's the sound coming from?"
They just couldn't get it. First time I saw this was at Qualcomm. They're building processors, but they're also doing audio chips. And like about 4 or 5 years ago in San Diego, they had a little phone device with 8 speakers in there. And I was like, "Geez, that's a surround system that you set up." No, it's coming. And now we try to get rid of all of these speakers. And still give you the idea. And then what Dolby introduced was Atmos kind of changed this. So coming back to this, what we talked about before, that you have to focus on the music. I mean, that's an amazing challenge a company is facing, that is bringing the idea of a high-end audio system into the digital world where we make so many compromises, like you said before, and then trying to get the users just back to the roots of listening. Huh?
Well, one way we are going to help educate people about this is, you know, I'm working with a lot of musicians right now, and we're having this discussion. And the interesting thing is that it really resonates with them as an artist, and that's why it was so funny to hear you say that someone on stage literally got annoyed with people and said, "Hey, you know, why am I standing here? You know, if you're going to look at me through a phone." But this is really how I think musicians feel, and they feel very close to their work. It's a work of art, right? When you produce an album, you've created a work of art.
It's also an experience and an event that you're going through.
And they want people to appreciate it as such, right? So what I'm hoping to do is by you'll see this coming up from Raumfeld on in our marketing. You know, we'll be talking to a lot of professional musicians and bands of all different genres. The first band actually we'll be speaking with is White Lies. They're a British rock band, and they're actually releasing their 4th studio album, and they're going to talk about exactly that. Why it's so important to listen to music and what kind of details on their new album, if you really pay attention, you might actually hear. So I think through things like that, like actually talking to artists and having them explain to people why it's important to listen and what you're missing out on if you don't listen and if you don't hear it on a good system like a Raumfeld system, I think maybe that will help to turn the tide a little bit. As a manufacturer, we can tell people that, but when they hear it from their favorite artists, then maybe this will change things. So that's our mission right now, is to get people on that track and help them. So I hope that some of this is making sense. Speaking of quality, though, and great sound, I mean, that's the second announcement that we're making here at IFA, if I may. And I think people in Germany will probably be very familiar with this brand, Rosenthal. You probably know it too, right? So a very high-end brand for porcelain. So they're making, everything from plates and cups to objets d'art, and they have collaborations with Versace, and you find it here at the Cadive and places like this. So. We actually have been collaborating with Rosenthal over the last year to show the world's first Wi-Fi porcelain speaker. And it's called Raumfeld by Rosenthal. And I so wish I had it here to show, but as you know, it got snatched right out of my hands. The mayor of Berlin is here, and he wants to see it, so we couldn't say no. But you can see it if you're watching at raumfeld.de or raumfeld.com. It is a beautiful speaker, so it's kind of a round conical shape and then tailoring off into a little, a bottom. So the code name in the company was called like the Aliens, because it looks very, very iconic. It must be
quite a challenge to work with this material.
Sure, I mean, but that's what Rosenthal.
It's just vibrating on different frequencies.
Funny enough. That's actually one good thing about porcelain, is there is less vibration than compared to a square speaker. The space in the square is going like this. The frequencies are bouncing off each other. And in the round form, they actually just kind of dissipate. So the sound is much better. This is a system that is very, very high quality. So obviously it's handcrafted. So these speakers are handcrafted by Rosenthal. But it's Raumfeld speaker technology and Wi-Fi technology inside. So you have an amazing experience. I was listening to some jazz music on the speakers and just kind of closing my eyes, and you could hear such detail, and you really felt like you were in the room with the band. So if anyone is coming to the IFA, they should drop by our booth and have a look at it. It's very beautiful.
You're in which hall?
We are. Good question. Where are we? 10.1.
Okay, 10.1.
10.1.
It's actually pretty close.
It is pretty close to here. Yeah, it's very close. So
one more question with the Rosenthal speaker.
Yes.
Will the decision be of buying a new car or the speakers?
It's not like that. Let's say it is a luxury item because it's handcrafted. And it is that's just the way it is. So this is going to be a new price category for Raumfeld. At present, our most expensive speaker was the Stereo L, about $1,500 a pair. And these we don't know yet, because it's still a prototype that we're showing here at the IFA. We expect to release it next year sometime, but the price will be somewhere, I think, between 2,500 to 3,000 euros for the pair. So it will be sold also through not only the Raumfeld store, but also through Rosenthal shops. So select Rosenthal shops worldwide.
Interesting.
So you will probably see it in the Cartier, for example, and maybe Galerie Lafayette.
That's an interesting combination of two different markets.
Yeah, it is.
Here,
It's
right?
really, it's something very special. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I could never guess that this would ever happen, right?
Yeah,
But there you go. Someone needs to do it.
And the reaction so far, I mean, we've had obviously a lot of press coming by in the last days, and they're just blown away with the speaker. There's not only the sound, but also the design. So I think it's a hit. Yeah.
So what's the next big thing, Pablo? What's happening after Rosenthal? What's happening after all our speakers are connected? What's happening after everyone can have a Dolby Atmos system?
Well, then we're
at home?
trying to connect more with the home, right, and get into this world a little bit. Because if there's nothing more annoying, it's when you come home and you just want to hear some music and you have to pull your phone out and then you unlock it, and then I gotta open an app and then I gotta hit play, and then maybe in a couple minutes I hear some music, right?
Yeah.
So we're also partnering right now with another Berlin startup, or a Berlin startup, I should say, called Scenic, and they have developed a really nice smart home controller called Nuimo. I'll spell that for you, Nuimo. Okay. They have made this now compatible with the Raumfeld systems. So it's really wonderful. It's like a little dial, and it's magnetic, so you can mount it on your fridge, or you can wall mount it, or you can just have it here on the couch or coffee table. And you can touch it to play, pause, to skip. There's a very nice haptic dial to control volume. It also does gestures, so if you have it sitting here, you can raise or lower the volume by doing this, or you can skip a track like this. It's very, very cool. And it not only works with Raumfeld, but obviously you can control things like a Philips Hue lighting system, or pretty much anything that works with these, protocols. So the nice thing is they have made it work with Raumfeld, and they are adapting our station buttons as well. So soon you'll be able to even just choose your radio stations or your music sources just at a tap. So it's nice, and we're demoing that also in the booth. And this product is actually available now. You can buy it on, I think, even on Amazon. It's 199 euros. So very, very nicely crafted, not handmade, but made in Germany, of very fine materials. So it's real aluminum. It's metal. It has some weight to it. So very nice product. So that's basically where things are going at the moment, and we will continue to, challenge everyone's thinking on how to best experience the digital music and the streaming music, in a classical hi-fi kind of way. That's what it's about.
Wenn ihr das ausprobieren wollt, da sind wir. Wenn ihr das ausprobieren wollt, wenn ihr die neuen Raumfeld-Lautsprecher euch anschauen wollt, wie es mit dem Chromecast zusammenhängt, wenn ihr vor allen Dingen natürlich auch am Raumfeld bei Rosenthal euch mal anhören, das muss man, glaube ich, machen, um das einfach mal zu erleben, dann kommt ihr hier vorbei, Halle 10.2, die IFA hat ja noch ein bisschen auf, und gerade am Wochenende, Wetter ist schön, es lohnt sich, geht rüber bei Raumfeld auf den Stand 10.2. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Wir machen eine kleine Pause, etwa 5 Minuten. Und dann haben wir den Markus Nitschke hier, und zwar ist er bei Microsoft für Windows zuständig. Und dann reden wir vielleicht auch ein bisschen über den Surface, der hinter mir steht. Bis gleich.